Hello, this presentation is about introducing the object-oriented programming terminology and the concepts of class, object, methods, etc. Actually, we have used objects and we have used classes throughout all our previous presentations, just we were not aware all the times that that's what we were doing. So let's take again a look from the very simple programs that we started almost from day one. On line 4, we declare a variable x and we assign the string Joe space dough. And line 7 instructs the computer to display the contents of that variable, and that's why we see the output to be Joe dough. Let me replace line 7 with a little bit different statement. Let me point out that line 7 now says print, in other words, display something, and within the parentheses we have type x. Type x instructs the computer to display of what kind of variable is this x. Is it an integer? Is it a float? Is it a string? What is it? I remove the cover from the output and it says that type x is class string, str. So although we were not aware when we were using a string or strings, we were using some kind of a class. The class name str for strings. And when we were declaring on line 4 x equals something, the system created an object named x, we have called it variable x, and populated that object or set inside that object the value JOE space dough, Joe dough. Integers we have used, the float, for whatever reason, the designers of Python decided to develop those data as classes. Let me go and change line 7 to something else. Here we see that line 7 has been replaced, and inside the print parentheses it says dir x, and dir will display, it will show the capabilities of objects of the class string, what strings can do to themselves in a sense. So let's see the results of dir when we print the dir, and here we see what strings can do. We call them methods, and we have used these methods when we were manipulating strings. For example, and I just highlighted a few things we have done. We have split a string into members of a list. We have stripped the strings from spaces, let's say. We have found the index of some substring, and we have checked to see if it's alphabetic or if it's digit, etc., etc. Methods are what these objects can do, the capability of doing something. Now that we have seen the idea of objects that we have used before in terms of plain variables, let's see what we have done with the graphics object. Because when we introduced the graphics and the various shapes, we explicitly spoke about objects, about methods, etc., etc. And I'm going to use the same thing, the type and the dir. Here we are dealing now with graphics. Line 5, we create a window. Line 6, we set the background to a special color. Just I want you to observe that after line 10, etc., we create a circle. On line 14, we say we want to type to see what is the circle X. In line 9, for example, we say circle X is circle point, etc., etc. This program up to line 12 created the window, created the circle, as you see on the right. And then line 14 says print what type is circle X. And if you see here, it says the type is a class circle. That class is defined in the graphics library. So graphics.circle is a class and resides in the graphics and creates the circle. Now let me go and replace the line 14 from type to dir and see what methods, what things we will see when the program executes. Here we see again that the system has created the window, the circle, but let's see line 15, which says display the circle X dir. And what dir does, it displays the methods that we have used, or the functions, but technically they are methods, that we have used with objects of the class circle. We have used, for example, the method draw. We have used the method move. Here, as you see on line 10, we have used the method setOutline, which also highlighted here, and that's why we have the red surrounding the circle. We have used the method setFill, that is highlighted here as well, and that's why the circle became yellow. And then also we have used the method draw, which is highlighted here. So dir displays, among other things, the methods associated with the objects of class, whatever the class may be. I would like you to be familiar with this terminology, the class, the objects, the methods, etc., etc. Now that we're aware of the classes, objects, methods, because we have used them in the past, I'm going to give you some formal kind of definitions of those terms. A class is programming code and data together, a template if you want, to instantiate, construct an object and provide the means, the methods to give the object abilities and characteristics. Line 5, for example, GraphWin is a class, and that class, when it's invoked, instantiates, constructs an object of a window. In our example, we name that object wn, and at the same time, inside that class, there is a code that says the title on the top of the window, create a bar, that will be the title bar, and enter EasyPy as the title. Also has some other data inside the definition of the class. It says, in this example, the width of the GraphWin object will be 500 pixels, the length will be 300. And if you remember, if we do not put anything inside the parentheses, the data will be feather and the window will be 400 by 400, if I remember correctly. So these are the data already inside the class, or we can provide new data if the default ones are not to our liking. Line 9, for example, the word circle is a class. It's a template of how we can create a specific object. We have named it at line 9 circle X. Circle command, if you want, the name of the class instantiates, constructs, creates a circle. We specify our data that we want the circle to be at location 370, and the size of the circle we want in our example to be 15. These are the data. It will be better understood, I think, on line 10 when we invoke the method setOutline red. We specified on line 11 setFill yellow, which is setFill is a method, but if we don't do that, the default color will be gray. We have to invoke the method draw on line 12, because although the system will create the circle, it will not be visible. So we have to invoke the method draw in order for the circle to become visible. Here is another example of class, how we use a class to create an object, what are the class's default data values, how we can change those values, etc., etc. We call the default data, the default size of the window, the color of the window, the color of the circle, the color of the different objects. We call them fields or attributes. Fields or attributes are usually variables within a class that contain data. For example, the default size of the window or the default background color of the window. So we have classes. Using the classes, we instantiate objects. Those objects take some default values, some attributes, some fields from the class, and or we can specify when we construct an object of certain characteristics, of certain attributes of the object. And then sometimes we use the method, the abilities or the capabilities of the object to do something, such the method move, the capability of the object to move from one location to another, or undraw, the capability of removing the visual representation of an object from the canvas. And that's it for now.